Hey everybody, Jules Small here. Welcome. This is the May 1st garden tour with tips. I'll show you what I'm doing practically everywhere, I suppose. And I'm going to do it some still shot ways so the camera's not shaking all the time. Check it out. So we harvested some greens here Saturday morning on May 1st, and that comes from our mixed green scatter shot that we started back in March, and it performed very well. There's some pak choy, some tatsoi, Chinese cabbage, some red mustard, and some green mustard, and really it performed better than we thought it would. Happily surprised, actually. So this is where we start our okra for 2021, and we will be putting this over in the East Garden. It's a heavy clay soil in that area. This has been treated with cow manure and some fine bark and some slate chips. And then we spot treated it. We put some 10-10-10 where we're planting the seed. And then we top that off with basically some container mix. And we're hoping to get what we got last year in 2020, which was a bunch of 12-foot tall okra. And very prolific plant. If you're going to plant this, make sure once they start coming up that you're picking daily and picking them in about really pinky size. They're called ladyfingers in some areas, and you want them about 4 inches. We're now in the berry patch, and in late April we added some elderberry to this area too, and last fall we actually put in some blackberry in this area, and both of those like acidic soil 5.5 to 6.5. Elderberry performs better in partial sun than blackberry, but they both should perform well here. We have had blackberry in this area before, and they did fine. There's also an old grapevine back here that doesn't produce much because it's too shady for it, but it does a little. It's more than less for the birds. Anyhow, this has been productive in the past, so we're confident it's going to perform for us. So now we are in the northwest corner at May, beginning of May for 2021, and that's a Bruce plum tree there, dwarf variety. It's an early drop plum tree. It survived 4 different freezes and produced fruit, not a vast amount, but it did produce fruit. Unfortunately, they're thumb size and they're starting to drop, so I guess maybe the freeze did have an impact. Behind this plum tree, we've started a few things. First of all, here is a blueberry. There are 2 blueberry plants back here. Again, they like acidic, and this is an acidic area. This one needs pruning, by the way. Those were bare root and put in last fall. And we don't expect to get anything this year. Just let them go wild as much as possible. Behind that, you see a grow bag and a container. In the grow bag are Moon and Stars watermelon. I planted 3. There's 2 in there that came up, and may the best plant win. It will leave 1 that will come out of that bag, hopefully, and grow underneath the plum tree and out towards the sun. In the container is loofah, and that container actually has a very large hole in the backside. Happened to grow an Italian tomato tree out of that container last year that actually it got up to 16-17 foot. So hopefully the loofah will respond the same way, and as it comes up we will train it to that fence. And then finally, back in that back corner there, we will do the same technique in a grow bag with snake gourd. Hey, if you like this new format, leave me a thumbs up. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, please, and turn on the notifications. We are now going to move to the north garden, is what we call it. And this is the original garden bed that we put in 2004. Changes every year. This is what we're doing this year. Here is our pole bean crop for 2021, and this is early May, May 1st in fact. And you can see our makeshift trellis. The corners, the black corners, actually were frames for a patio canopy. And there you see a landscaping timber at the midriff that helps keep the weight on it. And at the bottom there's some cinder blocks holding it down as well. The poles actually are okra stems from 2020. We kept some around, so those are forming something to climb on. And that's where we have Carolina. No, we didn't put those in there. We put in white half runners. Okay, there's 8 of those, and then on the black corners there are 4 total of Chinese red noodle beans. You will notice in the background some early Alaska peas. So these are on the north side of this bed, so that when they come up they're not shading the foreground plants, which this year happen to be tomatoes. And then the peas are on the very north, even though they're going to be shorter. The idea is that perhaps we can extend their season by shading them somewhat with the pole beans. Okay, here we have our cucumber crop for this year. Fabricated a trellis. The black corners came from a canopy, a patio canopy that we had for years, and so we kept the corners to use in the garden. And that white trellis there is, we made it vertical. It's leaning on a 4x4, and in front of that are okra canes. Those came from last year's garden in 2020. And so what we're going to grow up the okra canes are what's called a Carolina Hybrid F1. It's a great cucumber. It's good pickling cucumber. On the edges, we're trying something new this year. It's called a lemon cucumber. Looks like a lemon. Hopefully they play well together. I hope so. In the foreground there at the bottom, those are actually daikon radish, and the purpose of that is to keep the clay. This is a clay area, so try to keep that soil broken up as much as possible. Daikon are a large radish. And then you will see on the edge a cherry tomato. That's a sweet 100, and the plan is to train it up that trellis on the outside of the cucumbers, and then probably bring it back to the right. There's another trellis to the right to make a little archway there. This is where our pasting tomatoes will go this year. These are Plum Regal F1s, and they're determinate tomatoes, so they will come in at the same time. We paired them up. There's 10 total. Kind of forms a row in the middle. And they have companion plants. They have some pollinator magnets. Those are daylilies right there, of course. There's also some feather celosia in here and some zinnias. Probably going to add a couple of marigolds for their purpose. Great companion plant for tomatoes. There's some garlic and also some leeks. And there's herbs such as parsley and basil, and some dill, and even some sage. We have some 3-shaded sage in here. So the idea is they come in at the same time, we pull it, we process it. If they come in early enough, we might be able to get another batch in there like an early girl. We started these tomatoes from seed, about 6 weeks ago, and when we transplanted them, we added Espoma, tomato tone, which is an organic product, has a very low NPK, and it has other micronutrients in there that are beneficial to the tomato, and they have sprung up quite well. You can, of course, find Espoma, that's E-S-P-O-M-A, you can find Espoma online. Okay, and this is the last of the north garden. This is over on the left side or the west side, and here it's a little polyculture experiment. In the bottom of that or the front of that, you see 2 tomato plants. Those are speckled Roman tomato plants that I got from Johnny Selected Seeds. Started those from seed and upplanted them and used some Espoma tomato tone on that. In between there's some seeds straight to the ground. That's a compact basil from Livingston Seeds. And then you'll see some round zucchini there coming in. I'll have to thin that out, but those come from old seeds and they look like they're going to produce well right there, so that's kind of cool. And then down on the end there's a Cubanelle pepper, and there's also a jalapeno tucked in there. And I've since taken this picture, I've added some chives in between those pepper plants. Now back here behind the north garden, those are those are potatoes. It's a shady area. That's an old mulch and brush pile that's been around for well over a decade. Flattened it out somewhat and chitted up some potatoes, tossed them in there, and you can see the result. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. That's one of our many experiments this year in 2021.
Well, that was fun. I tell you, well, we're not done yet, but man, we're about 10 minutes in. I wish gardening was that easy. Hey, let's head over to the West Garden. There's a lot of additions here. We once just had a grapevine. We did a lot of expansion this year.
This is the West Garden at the beginning of May 01 in fact, for 2021. The only thing we've ever had over here is this grapevine. That's a Concord grape. It gave us 10 pounds last year. I fed it at the beginning of April. I'm going to feed it again. I'll feed it at the beginning of each month through July with just 10, 10, 10. Keep the water heavy, and then when they start ripening up, just cut the water off and let them ripen right up. Now we have added this raised bed here. That's 4x8. Right now it's onion and radish, carrot, some shallots that were planted recently, and I did put a Cherokee tomato plant in there just for kicks and giggles. There's also some zinnia in there, some nasturtium. Not quite satisfied yet with what I'm seeing, but it's not horrible. So now this is a whiskey barrel 11-gallon with an A-frame trellis over it, and what's coming up in there is cucamelon. Real happy with the cucamelon coming in. Okay, so in addition to the raised bed, we've added a pallet platform for containers, and we also have, in addition to the cucamelon whiskey barrel, there's 3 more whiskey barrels. You can see 2 here, and each barrel has a melon in it with watermelon, radish, bee balm, nasturtium, marigold, and zinnia. And so the idea is for the melons to come up and through and then push them towards the east, we hope. We'll see how that goes. There's a banana melon, a cantaloupe, and also a Charentais melon. Now the platform itself is where most of our containers are. I counted it up. I'm kind of losing track, but we're somewhere well over 30 containers this year, whereas typically we use about 6. So this is a big addition to what we're doing. There's all kinds of stuff in here. Herbs, of course. Lots and lots of herbs, different varieties of herbs, some perennial, some annual. We have some tomatillo in here, some tomato plants in here, peppers, we have some chili peppers, we have some cubanelle, we have some jalapeno peppers, just all kinds of stuff going in here. Mints, of course that's an herb, but we have a common mint, we have a chocolate mint, we have lemon balm in a container. We also have lemon balm out behind that plum tree. So we really went all in this year for containers, and we'll see how it goes. We'll keep you updated through the summer.
Well, I told you, we did a lot over here, man. That's my little bird hotel over there on the fence. No, that's not. That's a bee hotel. Jules. Let's go check out the pepper patch. And then there's crazy experiments I'm trying. Wow, this is fun. Check this out.
Into the pepper patch and some experiments. And in fact, this itself is an experiment. These peonies you see here, this bed used to be full of peonies, and they didn't get as tall as another bed that I'll show you shortly because of the shade. So this is partial sun, and peppers like full sun, of course, but I had the space, so we're giving it a shot. We have, I can't even remember. We have some banana pepper, pimento pepper, big Jim, cayenne, and some red bell. That's what we have here. We'll see what happens. It's kind of experimental. This is not where all of our peppers are. Just run an experiment here to see what's going to happen. I'll probably add some eggplant back in as well. By the way, the peonies are blooming. They're in bloom. They'll be done here in a few weeks, and then we'll cut it back to the ground, and that will open up more sun and give us more space to add additional things later in the summer. In addition to that, over here, this is also on the south. This is the big peony bed. You can see how much taller they are here and thick. Didn't thin this out so much. Here in this whiskey barrel, we have corn. Yes, indeed. Sweet corn, Silver Queen we're running. That's a squash plant you see there. That's a spaghetti squash. I've added some beans to this barrel as well as some sunflower seeds. We'll see what happens. It's an experiment, and either it do or it don't. And on the other side of this bed, you see this little ship-shaped thing here. There's no soil in there. That's all brush and mulch and wood chips and all that kind of thing. I'll center it out when I get to it for a pumpkin. I'm going to plant a pumpkin in there and hopefully run that pumpkin back towards that corn experiment. So just an experimentation station, I guess you say. I mean, you know, if you're not trying things, you never know if it'll work.
Well, I really appreciate you guys watching, all your support over the years. It's been a lot of fun, and boy, we still got a few other things I didn't even bring up in this video, but we'll bring it up later. Thank you. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with the next tour. And as always, happy gardening and peace, y'all.